World Financial Group offers entrepreneurs from all backgrounds the opportunity to start their own business on a level playing field. Dr. Yana Woodhouse, receiving the WCM Wall Street Pioneer Award by the United Black Wall Street of America, Inc., is one of those entrepreneurs.
I see WFG and TFA as a place where African Americans with an entrepreneurial mindset can flourish. And the bonus, we help families and serve the communities across the country.
To learn more about us, go to worldfinancialgroup.com.
We are the sons and daughters of the soul. We are resilient and forever forward-thinking. We ask for nothing else than the opportunity to live and to create the lives that we were meant to live. We want nothing but an equal chance at options and possibilities. The same possibilities and options to live out our potential as our fellow man. We want to be heard, understood, and expressive in our reality. We are the future. We are the creative. We are here.
This is Kia Rogers, and you're listening to UrbanOlogy with my dad, Tony Rogers, on WHCR 90.3 FM New York.
Good afternoon. Tony Rogers, your host for UrbanOlogy, The Art of War. And for many of you who may not know, William Anthony Rogers is my birth name. It's kind of a play on words. And I taught The Art of War for many years at City College, which was my second home for a long period of time. This is going to be a very interesting show today. Well, all of the shows are interesting, but I have some special guests. Of course, I am quite honored to have the ability to have our mayor for the city of New York to be a guest to talk about what I suggested, positive things, because we always hear about negative stuff that's going on. What we don't always hear about is all of the positive things that take place. And I just was at viewed a press conference that the mayor had with New York One this morning. And I was just looking at the people who were sitting around him, and they definitely represented what New York looks like. And there were a number of women too. So that was also something that I have always learned, that if you have women who really are interested in working, sometimes it's good to have them do things, because they take care of business sometimes even more so than some of the men. But nevertheless, my first guest and my second group is I have Nelson Vell, 1984 Olympic cycling silver medalist. They're coming on Richard Cox to promote the Father's Day, the annual Father's Day Skyscrapr race. And that's an interesting program. This takes place, it's longer than Harlem Week. I think it's 52 years now. And Nelson was a messenger and rode so well that he was put into the Olympics. But nevertheless, that's another story. That's the second half. For now, I have the honor to introduce Mayor Eric Adams.
Hey brother, how are you? Good to be on with you, and I always have my tie crooked, so it's good to see it, right?
Hey, brother, I'd rather for your tie to be crooked. We could always straighten that out.
I was looking at your income video, and it just gave me an idea. That little snippet that I saw showed the fullness of you. You know, from your martial art to your meditation
And healing.
You know, all of that. And people sometimes they see a one-dimensional approach and don't realize that there's a fullness to us. You know, I may be the mayor, but I'm also a dad. You know, I'm a son. I meditate every morning when I get up. I pray every morning when I get up. I do my breathing exercises. You know, I focus on interacting with people. And your video just really, I told my team here, one of my guys, Noah, that, you know, we need to do a little snippet that would just show the fullness of being a mayor and what that means in this, the most important city in America.
Well, Soul City can probably help do that. You know, but that's important because people tend to know me from Harlem Week and the Greater Harlem Chamber of Commerce and all of that. But just like you, I got so many calls when they found out that you were a vegetarian. They saw the show and they said, "Wow, he's a vegetarian." I said, "Not only is he a vegetarian, is that before he went that way, he almost died. Went blind, was overweight. He looks so good now. You know what? You should have seen him a couple of years ago when we were hanging out in Brooklyn."
And I like to call it plant-based, where you want to get as many whole foods in your diet, and it's when you see people eating poorly, it's really not their fault. We have just been bombarded with misinformation. I mean, when you think about it, as you stated, doctors told me I was going to be blind in a year. I was going to lose some fingers and toes. I had an ulcer, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, the whole American package. And just simply changing my diet, man. My vision came back in like 3 weeks. My ulcer went away. My nerve damage in my hands and feet went away. I lost, some, challenging pounds, and it was just, food. So, folks need to know, because they were telling me that, listen, your mom was diabetic, so Eric is hereditary. It was never my DNA. It was my dinner,
It was your dinner, that's true.
Dinner, and I changed my health. And it's about educating people to that. And you're right, that's why it's important to me.
Every year I had to stop during the pandemic. I have a Harlem Holistic Wellness Week, and I use all of those things, the chamber and all of that stuff, to promote holistic wellness groups. And we're partnering now with the Uptown Grand Central. They just did a wonderful event. There's so many wellness groups that are in Upper Manhattan, all over. The pandemic had a great influence on people wanting to see how they can stay healthy. So.
Right. And the optimum word, and I'm writing that down, is wellness. Yeah. Because we often think about health, physical, but just as we have a body, we also have anatomy of our spirit. And the question is, you can't have obesity in either area. If you are obese spiritually, it's going to impact your mind. Mental health is crucial, so I would love to tap in some of those wellness groups, and we need to build this whole city of wellness.
Well, we can do this. Matter of fact, this is another conversation, but I was so impressed about what the Uptown Grand Central did. I wanted to partner with them and have some wellness workshops, even at the Renaissance Hotel. Before I let you, this is your show, and I don't want to use it. However, as president of the Harlem Tourism Board, there there were a couple of things that I had to say, else my board would not have let me do that. He said, "You're talking to the mayor. You know, we're trying to get the Harlem hospitality and tourism thing going. You got to say a couple of things. One is there is a company in Harlem, Club Cart Tours. They are the first company that has put together an electric club cart tour operation, and they are going to be working out of the new Marriott Hotel to take people downtown and uptown in a different way with club cart tours. And we're talking to DOT now to talk about how we can get tours going through the park, which would increase some of the opportunities, jobs, and the like. And the last commercial is I sent Nora a deck. One of the young ladies who are executive for Soul City lives in Far Rockaway, and she's putting together a program pilot. I didn't know Far Rockaway had the largest boardwalk in the country, but they're putting together a program to provide digital information about the swimming, the when you should go in the water. And I know that one of the things I want you to talk about is now we're going to get a lot more lifeguards.
Right.
But this digital thing is an interesting one. So those are the two things that I had to do. You know, when you are able to talk to the mayor, I have a whole list, but I said, no, I can't do that because he won't want to come back on. but there are two, things that I really had to do. And of course, the classic, Nelson Vale is a 1984 Olympic champion, cycling, silver medalist. And every year, I don't know whether you know about this, but every year people come from around the world to ride around Marcus Garvey Park because it's the same measurements as one of the Olympic courses. And Nelson was a messenger. And he used to ride this thing. David Walker, a police officer, community got started this about 52 years ago. And he was riding and beating all of the champions, all of the international races. They said, "Who's this guy?" And he says, "Well, I ride across 42nd Street every day." So this is simple to me. Right. But he's going to be around. But it's on Father's Day every year. Think about it. Sometimes ride with a champion, ride with an Olympic person. So perhaps those are other things that you might want to think about. But let's talk about some of the things.
But I want to know, this is on Father's Day?
Father's Day around Marcus Garvey Park every year. Matter of fact, I have coming on, and I'm going to send the tape of the second part of the show, and you can hear a lot about it. But it's a wonderful program. Do things for kids, create exercise. We have sometimes I ride. So we can try to get different older people, but we have Black Girls Ride. That's a national program. They're here. Rashid Bata, that's one of the largest Black cycling groups. He'll be on actually right after we finish with you, as well as Lisa Gillespie, who's the Black Girls Rider. And Major Taylor. I don't know whether you know about cycling, but if you know about Major Taylor, I'm going to write about him. He was one of the best one of the best riders in the 1800s. He went around, he was the Michael Jordan, before all of this. Cycling was the major entity in the world. And one of the best riders in cycling at that time was Major Taylor.
Okay.
Anyway,
I'm gonna look him up.
You should look him up. But let's talk about Mr. Mayor. There's so many things that you're doing, but I just have to commend you again. I was looking at the press conference today, and I was just looking at the people who were answering the questions. Not only did they look like the people who basically represent New York, but they lived. There was one lady who was talking about the housing. She says, "I grew up, within the housing," and I have to commend you. I've been for 50 years dealing with different administrations, but this is the first administration that has had the type of diversity in leadership positions and women of color in leadership positions that that ever was in New York City. And I'm using this platform to make sure that people know about that. But this is your show. Tell us what you want us to know, Mr. Mayor.
And you're right, because visualizations are important, and that is why we do those off topics press conferences, and so people can see. Sometimes you think of the mayor, but this city is currently being run by women for the first time. Five deputy mayors, of the first Filipino deputy mayor, the first East Indian deputy mayor, the first Trinidadian deputy mayor, the first woman of color to be a first deputy mayor. When you look at the first chief advisor of color, only the second chief of staff of City Hall. Camille is the second one. The first one was under my mentor, David Dinkins. And look at the fact, the first police commissioner of women of color that was here. The first fire commissioner was a woman. The first deputy commissioner of intelligence is a woman. But when you look at that, it was not important for me only to put women in places. We had to show the results of running a city of this level of complexity. And we are doing that. In spite of highlighting the worst things that ever happened in a city of this size every day. I mean, if it bleeds, it leads. We got that. That's just the nature of the beast. But when you dig through the layers, it is unbelievable what their personal narratives and lives have allowed them to use their positions of power to impact the lives of others. As Deputy Mayor Maria Torres Springer stated, she says, listen, when I talk about subsidized housing, I'm not talking about it from some place of Ivy Tower. I grew up on it.
She grew up on it, yeah.
When you hear Sheena Wright talks about her personal story and what her mom's role was around fighting against HIV and AIDS in the Black community, it's a real narrative of having her here. Deputy Mayor Williams Isom, she talked about her personal journey of dealing with breast cancer. Now she's in charge of Health and Human Services. But when you dig into the narratives of our leadership, you're seeing not only do they look like the city, but they have the stories of those who are in the city,
including yourself, Mr. Mayor, which is interesting. I was astounded today to hear the numbers, the increase of numbers based on this whole border issue and this immigration issue, as it relates to the numbers when you first came into office that you had to manage as far as with the shelters, and it was like triple the numbers that are here now. And of all of the things that you've been able to do, to be able to keep the city running at some level with all of those thousands and thousands and thousands of people coming in every day, to be able to have to deal with them.
Right.
That's a hell of a task. And I have to commend you and your people for doing that.
And just think about it for a moment. People think that, okay, the border crisis has settled. No, it has not. We're just managing it. To get roughly 5,000 people a month, 1,000 a week to find housing for them. We've received over 200,000 people. That's the size of cities. It's over 1.5 the size of Albany. And to be able to do that, look at other cities and you see what's happening in other cities. And I take my hat off to my colleagues across the entire country, because they are fighting to get the help they need. And here's the real danger, Brother Rogers, is that we saw an example of that danger of the migrant and asylum seeker who shot 2 police officers. He's in the country. He can't work because he's not allowed due to federal rules. He can't enroll in college and get any subsidized college tuition. He can't do all the basic things. So what else are they going to do? I mean, think about this.
They kind of live, right?
People got to eat. And unfortunately, some people do illegal things to eat. And when you have there's nothing more dangerous than a desperate person. And if we don't get this issue resolved and make sure that we manage our border, give the funding to our local municipalities like Chicago and Denver and others in New York, this problem can continue to grow at a very dangerous rate in our country.
And I mean, New York is a city so nicely named it twice, but I don't think any other city or any other mayor would be able to have been able to deal with what you're dealing with and look as good as you do now. You still got that swagger, and smile, I mean, you're not, looking for a bridge to jump off or anything like that. So that attests to some of your perseverance, but you're right. That has to be done. One of the other things that you said at the press conference that I thought was interesting was your take on there's so many of the smoke shops that are illegal that we're trying to close down, and your thought that there probably is some sort of organized method in order to allow for that to happen, and that was the first time I heard that.
And what's
they're going to print that, but that was the first time that I heard it.
Yeah, and what's interesting, that's the uniqueness I bring to the role as mayor. The many lives that I had to live. And one of the most important lives is the role as a member of the police department for 22 years. So you tend to have this sixth sense. Like I said, there were outside agitators at these demonstrations. And before we were able to actualize it, I knew something was not right. And it turned out that I was correct in my analysis. And that's the same thing with the cannabis issue. You can look and see all the products are the same. You know what I'm saying?
You wouldn't know the difference, right?
Right. It's like it's the McDonald's of illegal cannabis. Everybody's selling a Big Mac. Then you need to say, wait a minute, somebody's dealing with the same flow. And so just recently, 2 weeks ago, we saw at Brooklyn Navy Yard, we were able to find a large cache of these products, over $1 million of different products. So It seems to be that there's a professional operation around this with a distribution mechanism that's supplying these locations. And so we have to go to the source of this and make sure that we not only close down the illegal shops that we're doing, we've inspected close to 500, closed down over 300. And we know that we have to also stop the supply as well as the demand.
Well, it's like picking up water with your hands sometimes, but
right.
But it's a tough job. As I had mentioned to a number of people, the president of the United States probably does not have as many headaches on a daily basis, because he has a lot of people who, out there in front of him. But, you get hit and you got to deal with a lot of that stuff and everything. And it's that whole joke about shine, you're doing fine, but you miss one stroke. And it's mine, and that's the way they deal with you.
And what's interesting, as you do the analogy of the president of the United States, the president of the United States, any president is not touchable. You can't reach out and touch them. Right. And so, since I don't hide out in City Hall, I'm in the streets. I'm on the subway. I'm in reach. I was walking down 116th Street. And in Harlem the other day, last night.
They told me, I got the sighting. We got the sightings that you were in town.
Yes.
You know how we do in Harlem.
Yeah, and it's that feel that people, when you are hurting, if you can't reach the person that you complain to, you have a tendency never to know it. But since I'm in such close proximity, people share, their anger. And you know what? No matter what happens in the city, they don't say, hey, the president dropped the ball. They say the mayor. Like, people think
especially if it's a black mayor.
They think I'm in charge of congestion pricing. I'm not in charge of congestion pricing. I don't control the MTA. I don't, brother stopped me a couple of months ago, and said, I'm getting a divorce. It's your fault. So, I'm blamed for everything, brother.
But and that's why I'm so happy that you've agreed to give us some opportunities. I know you do some things with WHCR. I know my cousin gives you some the Harlem Community News. So because we have to protect ourselves. I mean, it's up to us to make sure. We can't complain. If you are under fire, we're under fire. That's the way I have to look at it. I mean, that's the way any other nationality, any group would look at it. You know how that goes.
Right.
I mean,
right.
You say something about the wrong people, you lose your job.
And you know what? Let me tell you something. Nothing is worse than people running the same playbook on you, and you fall for the same play. This is David Dinkins' playbook. He dressed too fancy. He's out too much at night. He's not smart enough to run the city. And Mayor Dinkins turned around the city. It was his safe city, safe streets that started bringing down crime. The economy started reversing. But we bought into the narrative, and we started pushing that narrative. And so what I'm saying to folks, and I'm very front and center about it, listen, don't be duped by the same playbook. And even trying to give the rumor or the belief that the speaker and I are at war with each other. We're not at war. We disagree. Families disagree, and we should be mature enough politically to say, when I disagree with you, I disagree on the issue. I don't disagree with you on our ability to land two budgets, our ability to cycle us out of COVID, to deal with 200,000 migrants and asylum seekers. You're seeing the success of the first woman of color as a speaker and the second person of color to be the mayor. And you're seeing us navigating the most difficult city in the country, if not the globe. We should be lifting that up and not allowing people to change the narrative on us.
Which is why I love to have you on my show, Mr. Mayor, because somebody have to see it. And believe me, a lot of people will see this. We send this all over the place so that they can see you, just like you indicated that piece on me, because people can see more as to who I am, not the Tony Rogers who's, whoever. That's why I always tell them, Tony is not real. William Anthony Rogers. My mother used to always say, Tony is not on your birth certificate, son. So,
I love that.
But and that's war. That's where the art of war comes from. Not But nevertheless, Mr. Mayor,
we're excited because I know you got other guests. But as you indicated, we're really excited that we've opened up the NYCHA wait list. Several 100,000 have already applied. It just goes to show you we need housing. And that's why our City of Yes initiative is so important. And we're also doing these job programs of opening it up for New York City jobs. We want to hire people. We've cut Black unemployment rate substantially. One time it was 4 times the rate as whites. We cut it in half. We're below 8% for the first time since 2019. If we give people jobs, we would give them hope and opportunity. Dignity is spelled J-O-B.
Well, again, thank you so much for your time. I will send a copy of this to Noah so you can learn about my next guest and the biking. That's a wonderful program that you should be aware of it. At some point, Nelson Vale, who's the Olympian, says, we could ride with the bear. We'll give you a bike and a helmet and go on. And don't forget the Harlem Renaissance Hotel. We have to invite you up there, just to see it and to understand what's happening up in Harlem and the Harlem tourism. Please let me know who is in charge of tourism in your administration. I'll get that from Noah. We just want to connect with them. Okay.
Love it. Thank you, brother. Be well.
Thank you. Be well and stay the way you are, brother. We're behind you. Keep that smile. Keep that approach, because you do have a lot of people who got your back.
Feel it every day. All right, my brother. Be well.
Care. Thank you. And again, that was our mayor gives me great pleasure to be able to give a different type of a view as it relates to him. As I had mentioned, and this is again uh, the, uh, the reason why I love the Soul Cities and the WCRs, and because we can change our narratives and talk about the things that are important to us. One of the important things that is coming. David Walker was a police officer. He was a community affairs officer, and years ago, I think it was 52, but Richard will correct me. Years ago, he wanted to develop a safety program for young people, and he started doing work with the different clubs and bike clubs, and created the Skyscrapr Father's Day event. And now it has grown. It's one of those programs that happens every year. We have an Olympian who will be coming on, Nestle Vale, who, based on this Harlem program, was able to go all the way to the Olympics and then around the world as a champion, and won. Rashid Bataille has one of a very large organization in cycling, people of color and his family, as well as Lisa Lashley Nelson, who is there. So I would like to introduce Richard Cox, who is in himself a wonderful brother to work with. He does things with Rucker. He does things with Harlem Tourism Board, his own Unity Tours and Unity organization is really prominent. And he's one of the major figures in putting together the logistics for the Father's Day event. And I'd like to bring him on to introduce some of his guests. So, Richard, can you come on and introduce your guest?
Yeah, I would love to introduce, the great partners that we have with the Harlem Skyscrapr. And you're right, just to take a quick backtrack on what you were saying, Tony, it was 52 years ago, in 1973, that David Walker, a New York City police detective, community affairs detective, started the Harlem Skyscrapr Cycling Classic as a way of bringing young people together for bicycle safety programs, and as a way of bringing the community together as a fellowship. As we know, at that time in '73, it wasn't known as Marcus Garvey Park. It was known as Mount Morris Park. And we all know in the '70s how the city went through its struggles and getting then Mayor John Lindsay to negotiate how to recognize the African experience, or the African American experience, in that neighborhood. So we all know the solution came out to be renaming Mount Morris Park as Marcus Garvey Park.
And Richard, just David Walker also was the person who developed the international double Dutch competition that you also work with his daughter. It usually is at the Apollo. So I just wanted to throw that in.
I'm gonna throw a third thing at you, Tony. We want to jump right into the cycling, but we'll listen to you and the mayor talk about the health initiatives. Just remember, Team Unity does have the Harlem Unity Market that starts this year on June 29th in front of the Harlem State Office Building. Takes place every Saturday. So we may have to come back with you at another show to talk about that as well.
When you open it, we should do that. That'd be great.
I would love to, bring on, some great people who continue to make the Harlem Skyscrapr sustainable. And I think that's a word that, we don't take lightly, because we need to know about the future and how the current efforts progress, in today's time. So, let's bring them on. Of course, let's bring on Rashid Bataille from the Bataille Foundation out in Los Angeles.
Greetings.
And then, of course, bringing on Lisa Gillespie from Black Girls Do Bike, who she is definitely someone who I have to take my hat off to, who has taken a big weight off my shoulders. But the other person I want to bring in, and we always talk about this story when we talked about last time about the whole Mickey Mouse watch story. But anyway, love to bring in, United States Olympic champion from 1984, Nelson Vales, a Harlemite in his own way. So, Tony, I'm going to turn the microphone back over to you. So you can go ahead and start asking the questions. And, we're here to talk about the Harlem Skyscraper Cycling Classic.
Well, one of the things that I like to do is, again, to let people know about, we'll use Nelson Vale to kind of close out, even though he could jump in whenever he wants to, because that's why we call him Cheetah. He's fast. But Rashadi, tell us a little bit about your foundation, and then Lisa, tell us a little bit about yours, and then Nelson, you could tell us about how important you feel the Skyscraper, what it meant to you, and why you still hang in there now that you're famous and known around the world.
Well, Tony, thank you so much for having me on your program. I think this is an excellent opportunity to talk about the Harlem Skyscraper, but just to give you a little background about the Bahati Foundation, we're based here in Los Angeles, actually. And the foundation was founded by my son, who's a 10-time U.S. champion cyclist. His name is Rahsaan Bahati. Founded the foundation over now going towards 14 years ago. And our mission is to work with underserved youth in the community, getting them access to competitive and non-competitive cycling opportunities. And we provide those opportunities through the foundation. One of our outreach programs, which brings us to New York every year, we started a relationship with the Harlem Skyscraper. And what brings us to New York is that we do a bike giveaway. So this is our second year that we are looking to give young people in the Harlem area, Bronx, other areas of New York, brand new bicycles. So we're very excited about that. And we're excited about our relationship with Black Girls Do Bikes and with the organization called Friends of the Children, which is based there in Harlem as well. So these allegiances and relationships have been really building over the last couple of years, and we're really excited to work with everyone there in Harlem.
Well, what we'll do is either you or Richard probably will need to let us know how and who can qualify for these bike giveaways and when they're going to take place, because I know I got two messages now. Where, when, what's
okay.
So
Yeah.
when you threw that out there, we got to do something with that. But go ahead.
No, I was just going to indicate that normally when you say those types of things in an open forum, people want to know how can I get a bike for my child or what have you. Typically what we've done in the past, this would be our 7th year here in Los Angeles with an annual bike giveaway. We give away 200 bikes plus a year here in Los Angeles.
Wow.
And the way we handle that, though, we look at what Richard was mentioning, sustainability. We look at ways of engaging young people in the sport of cycling. So it's not just giving away a bike and we never see the child again, but we want to work with them consistently and matriculate them through a process that gets them engaged in alternative mobility, as well as possibly competitive cycling. So just as my son started when he was 11 years old at the Velodrome track, the same one where Nelson actually won his silver medal in '84. So we look at those kinds of things. So there might be a way for a young person to get a bike. However, we like to work with organizations that are already established in the community, and we bring those young people through that process of getting a bike.
Sounds good, and we'll talk about that. But I know that that's going to be something that people will. Richard is smiling because he knows too. I'm going to send him to Richard. Black Girls Do Bike. Tell us a little bit about Black Girls Do Bike, Lisa.
Well, and also thanks for inviting us to this platform. I'm Lisa Gillespie. I'm one of the leaders of Black Girls Do Bike New York City. We are part of the community of cyclists and have chapters literally all around the world. So we have worldwide more than 25,000 members. Our cyclists range anywhere from cyclists who are commuters to cyclists who are competitive, everybody in between. The age range of our cyclists is anywhere from mid-30s up to 70s, and cycling is the kind of activity you can do forever. Our New York City chapter is one of the biggest chapters, of course, for New Yorkers, so we have a very large, robust membership. We run rides every weekend. We have beginner ride training. We have 4 leaders who are licensed cycling instructors, including myself. So we teach people who do not know how to ride bikes, how to ride bikes. And then we teach biking skills and group riding skills to anybody who wants to ride with us. Our focus is on BIPOC women, and we are 100% women-led, organized group, and promote health of the community with a particular focus on Black women. So that's the uniqueness of our group. But we do a lot. We currently, our riders are riding about 50 miles a weekend. We have 50-mile rides every weekend. We have riders that are training to go to Colorado to ride gravel. So we created a all-women's graveling group. It's called Black Girls Gravel. We have women that are going to ride in Jamaica as part of our national meetup for Black Girls Do Bike. We have a group of women who are going to ride in Italy, where we will be riding part of the Lega Tour de France. So, and then in addition to that, we have a ton of recreational rides that are anywhere from like 5 to 15 miles. So we make sure we always have something for everyone and give you an opportunity to explore whatever aspects of cycling you want to explore, because we got you.
Well, and is it only for Black girls, or can Black guys be involved in some kind of way?
We have a lot of male riders who love riding with us because we have a lot of fun. We're a good group.
There's a lot of girls, a lot of women there, so that's another way to get people healthy. You gotta, if you can keep up with me, we can talk, I guess.
Like, we're not just, a lot of us are not. I mean, I did laps in the park and I'm slow right now. I'm at 15 miles an hour. You talk about major.
That's slow, huh?
I'm a member of Major Taylor Iron Riders. I cannot ride with them at 15 miles an hour. I have to get my pace up. So, but that's something that I'm working towards, and by the end of the month, we should be able to hang on. And it's the training we do and that we offer that brings everybody on. And for our open rides, everybody's invited.
How can people reach you, Lisa?
We're on IG, Black Girls Bike New York City. Our Facebook group is our women's only group because we need a space. So
I can understand that.
But on IG, you'll see our calendar, the rides that are coming up. We're doing a ride to Camino Dam next weekend. This weekend, we're joining Rafa and Acme out in upstate New York to ride gravel. So we're always doing stuff. We just finished a giant ride. We had 800 riders. We're part of a collaborative of 11 BIPOC cycling groups. We had 800 riders take over for 20 miles to 4 boroughs on Sunday. So
again, what we should do is put in the chat how people can reach you, your website. And now my good friend Nelson Vell, who's a legend all over the world,
I want to say thank you. Thank you, Tony.
And this man, as the story goes, as more people tell the story, the more grandiose it gets. But the way I got it was that you was a messenger, and you used to be zooming through Manhattan all of the time, and David Walker invited you to ride in this competition with all of these professional riders, and you kept winning. And they was wondering, well, how can you do that? And you said, well, riding in New York City was my foundation. If I could ride across 42nd Street midday, I can go any place.
Well, I'll tell you this. Richard can only tell you the true story, how we got started. It's how we got here. It's not how I got here. And also, I just wanted to step in real quick. Lisa, I'm so proud of you because you had such a big animal to work with all the girls that came for the 5 borough tour. and that's out of your chapter. So that was a real big deal you dealt with all the visitors. So that was really good job you did. So
We had 65 riders.
yeah, you know. Mm-hmm.
And that's important as it relates to all of the health and wellness stuff. But go back to the story of Nelson as to
All right. Well, the story begins. I don't know. It was Richard and I as kids before the messenger thing even started. So we were a bunch of kids riding our 5 speeds, our bicycles through Harlem, up and downtown, through around Central Park as a bunch of. We were like the little rascals, I guess. But once Mr. Walker put this thing together, you know, we were all gangsters racing against each other in a closed form per se. You know, things like that. But yeah, our first little race, our first dab of racing was when Richard beat me as kids, and I cried, and Richard smiled, and he got the big trophy and a watch. That's what he's always rubbing it in. And I didn't get the watch, but it's like I'm coming back for that thing.
About that, you know.
That was man.
I got him.
You
started.
don't know. I had to practice a whole year to come back for that one.
That was revenge.
Yeah.
Well, that's what that was said. Nelson got good because he wanted to get me back.
I wanted that watch. I wanted that Mickey Mouse watch so bad. You know, after a while, they weren't involved. You know, but still growing up and becoming a young adult, I had an opportunity to learn to race my bicycle through the local club out of Central Park. And that's when I was really discovered from Lenny Preheim in the Toga Bike Shop, who got me involved in doing the messenger work. So, you know, it was part-time school in the morning, little messengering in the afternoon, and then training with the boys at night in Central Park. So it was a little cycle of that until full-blown summer when I became a full-blown messenger, where I would work during the day and train at night and race on weekends. Wow. So it's really nice to be one of those OGs that some of the kids learn that I'm still alive from their messenger days. Some of that group of kids that are doing it now, the Fixies group, right? The single speed.
Now I think that the e-bikes have taken over that area. So you don't see too many people on the bikes, nevertheless.
Don't crack on those e-bikes now. I got one sitting right here. It's charged up. I just unplugged it. I'll go burn some battery on you.
Make sure you got a good battery, and I just had the.
I'll burn some battery on you.
I had the Deputy Commissioner Jim Harden on,
but
about this whole e-bike thing. But
yeah, but the Harlem race, you know, we talked about how special this event is. For as many years as it's been going on, I've only missed probably 5 out of the many of 52 years that maybe an event that overlap, but it's really dear to my heart. It's dear to the Vales family heart. A lot of people in Harlem, since I was born and raised right there on 115th and 5th Avenue there in Foster Projects. So, and it became an annual, and it still is an annual family event. And thanks to Richard and what he's doing with the inner side of the park, where there's all type of events now that are taking place within the park itself. In this closed circuit area. So it's a real fun day of festival that has really grown into something. And if the mayor can come out and see what's going on, or his representatives, he'll see what a fantastic Father's Day weekend that Richard had put together and his team.
One of these days, hopefully one of these years, I would like to try to find a way to have an expo, a cycling expo, maybe at the Marriott Hotel, where we can bring, you know, different people in to talk about cycling, talk about bikes, maybe even bike giveaways for young people, the safety components of it. I know that those things are possible, and I know that they happen, and you guys have all of the resources that, you know, as far as the bikers and people to be able to do that. But that would be a great way. And then it ends with the Father's Day piece, or it starts after the, you know, Father's Day. But those are, you know, sometimes I get carried away with my my visions, but I think that can be doable, and I believe that this year, you know, not this year, but the next couple of years, it'll probably be important to make happen. And hopefully, in his second term, the mayor will be able to help sponsor some of these things as far as giving the seal of approval as relates to recycling, because he does have a very strong health platform as relates to being a vegetarian, being exercise, and all of that type of stuff.
So I guess he won't make it to our little excitement, our little promotion event that Rich and I are putting on on 125th Street coming that weekend. Rich could tell you more about that.
I'm listening to everything, and we're right. Besides the sustainability, following sustainability is growth. So all you're hearing today, Tony, is the beginning of a new growth. Bringing the event to different aspects, different avenues, different levels of exposure. So yes, we're doing a promotional event along with a new sponsor. Just moved into Harlem, Raising Cane's Chicken Fingers. So
well,
maybe there are some folks out there, including the mayor, who might not be able to engage in the eating aspect, but you can definitely engage in the community aspect. Like the same situation you just talked about, us bringing together some sort of cycling aspect back to the Marriott Renaissance Hotel in Harlem, expanding that concept, bringing that more into community context. There are so many different areas of growth that this event can actually mature to. And that's what we're looking at. That's why these folks are here with me in this room, because, there's different visions from different aspects. We have to take all of our collaborative resources to bring them together for one direct mission. And I think that's what we're on the verge of doing again.
Well, around the world, cycling has been a tremendous tourism draw. And as you talk about, as far as in France and in many, many locations. So I think that as far as the Harlem tourism and hospitality industry, we are ripe for that type of a conversation. And fortunately, you have people here who can spearhead and be the foundation of something.
Well, let me jump in a little bit further. We always talk about Europe when it talks about cycling. Let's talk about Africa, and how the sport of cycling has matured and developed on the continent of Africa. We can't sleep on this. And if you're a person in the cycling industry, whether you're a promoter, whether you're a bicycle manufacturer, whether you're a parts manufacturer, any part of the cycling aspect or any part of the sporting aspect, you cannot leave out the continent of Africa in this century. So we're also looking to collaborate with groups, on the continent and bringing them to Harlem to race in future events. And some have already competed already, but bringing them on a grander scale. Like I said, once again, a new area of growth that could be collaborative for not only for the community, but also for the tourism industry as well. So there's other opportunities out there.
And let me jump in real quick. I apologize. Let me jump in real quick, because as you just spoken on that same subject of Africa, Mr. Bahati here, Mr. Rashid here has great contacts with what they've been doing out that way. And you talking about bringing some folks over, and a lot of that can come through his program as well. So,
that was a segue to bring it right.
That was a segue. Yes.
Thank you, Nelson.
Yes.
In fact, just as an informational item, this year's event, the Secretary General of the Ghana Cycling Federation will be in attendance at this year's event.
At Skyscrapr?
Yes, this year. And so he was invited by the foundation, our foundation. He's going to be here just to check it out, to give that perspective, so he can go back and now champion getting the riders here for next year. So we're excited about that.
We have to try to do some sort of a tour with Club Cart to see some of the other things that are going on. And we have a couple of more minutes. I wanted to briefly talk about Major Taylor, Nelson, because I wanted to put together an article about Major Taylor, which a lot of people are not aware of. But he was Michael Jordan, that whoever you talk about as major athlete that's internationally known was this brother, Major Taylor. And I know that you had mentioned, Lisa, about the Iron Riders, I believe.
Yeah, so the New York Major Taylor cycling organizations are also worldwide. There's sometimes several in every state. New York, the tri-state area, has 4 clubs. New York, 2 in New Jersey, and then Delaware. And when we all get together, it's a party for who's going to snatch whose life. So, I mean, all very competitive cycling groups, everybody likes to move fast. They ride safe, they ride in Peloton. So they really like to, eat their young.
And Taylor's time was in the early 1900s. Is that correct, Richard?
What?
Yeah, right at the turn of the century.
Turn of the century, yeah.
Yeah, right at the turn of the century. He won a world's championship 1890 something, the late
98. 1898.
And became a world champion, and the rest is history after that. Traveled the world as a ambassador, as a black man at that time on a bicycle. One thing that New Yorkers may not know that would be prevalent, Tony, is that Madison Square Garden at the turn of the century, they raced bikes in Madison Square Garden. That was the number one thing that went on.
Actually, it's funny because I mean, I wasn't here to turn of the century, but I remember seeing some tapage of these bicycle, which was hard too, because that indoor stuff. They did something with. There was a documentary with Major Taylor, and they were showing how they were riding in these indoor locations, and it was rough.
Yeah, the 6-day races or whatever. Nelson knows about that because Nelson did that type of racing in Europe as well, doing his reign as a champion.
Yeah, and they didn't play. I mean, you were, that was almost as bad as driving across 42nd Street in midday.
Right.
But Richard, before we give you're having some sort of a press conference. Just give the address and give the information about that before we wrap up.
Well, every year prior to the Skyscrapr on Sunday, on Father's Day, we always have a press conference, pre-promotional event. Once again, we're happy that this year will be at Raising Cane's Chicken Fingers. And Raising Cane Chicken Fingers is located at 124 West 125th Street. And so we're going to be there from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. If you're there, come on through, buy some of the great chicken fingers that are there. And if you mention the event, some of the proceeds from your order will go help support some great activities that are associated with the Harle Skyscrapr Cycling Classic.
Sounds good. And Nelson, they were working on a documentary that I had the pleasure of seeing some of it. And I know that had been going on for a while, and then the pandemic came, and I didn't hear too much more about it. Is that something that's still in play, or how are we looking at it?
It's not sitting dormant. It's still in play, and that's something that Rashid and I we kind of have it on the back burner, but it's still active and it's still alive as an entity. And it's just a matter of the opportunity on when we can actually meet and make the next step without jumping into it too fast, too soon. It needs to be sustainable. So we discussed that.
That was a very meaningful piece that I saw about you and coming out of the projects and doing all of that stuff, and then going to the Olympics and almost getting the gold, which was interesting. Well, again, Richard, Rashid, Lisa, Nelson, thank you so much for taking some time. I'm going to send also this to the mayor. He seemed to be interested, so I'm going to send him a copy of this. So I hope that at some point you'll invite him again to come to the classic.
For the record, we invite Mayor Adams every year, just like the previous mayors of New York City. We're just hopeful that this year that the mayor, even if he stops by to shake a few hands and just enjoy the festivities and meet some of our special guests coming through, we definitely appreciate it.
How many countries would be represented roughly at this point?
You know, I'm actually looking through the registration now. We have at least a dozen countries already represented so far in the registration, but we do have a large contingency of folks coming up from Florida.
From Florida, huh?
For Florida.
Mhm.
Is there a team coming in from China? I think you had mentioned that before. Is that
So
still
we
happening?
invited several international teams. Sometimes they don't make their arrangements until the very last minute, but you know, everything is still in process. We still have a few days left for registration, and you know, this week and next week is the big push. So we're going to see our numbers pretty much triple over the next 10 days when it comes to registrations.
And that's, again, for those who might know, the starting line was 122nd Street,
121st.
121st Street, and Marcus, what is Montmartre Parkway, right? And that's on Father's Day, so it's a wonderful place to come. And there's a lot of activity in the park that's going on. So for dads, you know, or you want to take your dad someplace where, you know, you can have a family event, this would be a wonderful place to go. I look forward to seeing all of you. Lisa?
Yeah, I just want to say that, you know, Rashid and Bahati Foundation and Black Girls Do Bike are putting on the children's race. So
What's that? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Yeah, they're putting on the children's race.
Oh,
The
okay.
children's aspect. Like I said, remember that big weight that's been taken off my shoulders?
Right.
You know, these two people have definitely helped with that, because my hat goes off to Lisa Gillespie of Black Girls Do Bike.
What time is this children's race? Do you know at this point?
Yeah, it'd be roughly about 12 noon, 12:30ish, right after the Masters race.
And how do you register for kids?
Yep, about 11 a.m. to register. Then we're going to have a skills clinic for all the kids. We're hoping to get every kid a T-shirt, but every child will get a medal. And we also have a first and third place medal. And
what's the age limit, Lisa?
Toddlers on their little push bikes up to 16.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. And like she said, you'll be able to register in person at 11 a.m., starting at 11 a.m. on that day.
On Father's Day. So dads, take your daughters, take your sons, and we'll see that. And toddlers with their push bikes, huh? Okay. Well, thank you guys. We're running out, and I appreciate you for taking some time and talking to us today, talking about the class with Richard. Obviously, if you're in town, we're having a Harlem Tourism Board meeting on tomorrow at the Renaissance Hotel, and I'm sure Richard will be there to do a presentation. It starts at 6:30. Please, come through if you can. And we look forward to seeing you next week. Summer is almost here, so we'll be ready. So thank you, Richard, Rashid, Nelson, Lisa, thank you so much. And at this point, this is Tony Rogers signing off. Hope to see you next week. Take care. Bye.
This is Kia Rogers, and you're listening to UrbanOlogy with my dad, Tony Rogers, on WHCR 90.3 FM New York.
UrbanOlogy.